In today's video, I'm going to cover the differences between a left wing and a right wing feather. For those of you that are new here, my name is Jake Kaminsky. I'm a two-time Olympic silver medalist in the sport of archery. I'm working to make this channel a great resource to all types of archery. So if you haven't yet, hit that subscription button and the notification bell. That way you're notified every time a new video is uploaded. I'd appreciate it. So obviously, these are really large feathers, and it's not indoor season, but I think it's important to learn and to understand the differences between a left wing and a right wing feather. This is going to be part of my arrow building series that I'm currently working on. So if you haven't seen the rest of the arrow building series up until now, there's some information in there on how to cut arrows, how to glue in components properly, how to check your spine selection, all sorts of different things. I'll put a link in the description below on where you can find the playlist, as well as a card at the top up here, so you can find the rest of the playlist. But basically, this is just a continuation of the arrow building series, and I'm going to show you and explain to you basically what is the difference between a left wing and a right wing feather, and how to pick one for you if you're right or left-handed, and which way to fletch them with right or left helical. All of those things matter, or at least two of those things matter in my opinion. So let's get into it. Basically, I'm going to show you some close-ups here as I'm describing each type of feather, and we're going to go through some important differences of the actual feathers themselves. So the left wing feather is not really any different than the right wing feather. All it is in the way that the, whatever you would call this part of the actual feather is the direction that it comes off of the quill, all right? So which direction is it coming off of, which direction does it naturally curve in, and which direction do the actual parts that you glue the feather onto your arrow. Those are all different. The main thing that you need to take into consideration when choosing a right wing or a left wing feather is really which clamp do you have available. Which clamp are you using to shoot, or which direction are you going to make the arrow twist if you have a straight clamp and are just offsetting the feather instead of using helical to mount the feather. For those of you that don't know what helical is the offset of the feather, and it is curving the actual feather. So you can see on this arrow here that the feathers are actually wrapped around the arrow shaft itself, and that is what is called helical. So helical wraps around the arrow. Offset, you just angle the arrows. But if you think about it, if I angled the feathers a whole lot, you can see that I only have contact at one point of the arrow. So then you use helical to turn the feather around the arrow so you can actually glue it on the shaft. Now when you're fletching arrows, you're using a fletching jig or a fletching jig clamp in this particular example. And you have three options. You have a straight clamp, you have a left-hand helical, and you have a right-hand helical. And you can see that the right and left-hand helicals curve the feathers in different directions. They are shaped totally different. And right-hand twist or a left-hand twist, all right? Now, where that comes into play is you have to match your helical with the wing of the feather. Right wing feathers, you need to use right helical clamps. Left wing feathers, you need to use left helical clamps. Now the reason why is just simply what the feather does and how it reacts depending on which direction the wind hits it from. If the wind is hitting it from the wrong side, the feathers will actually start to separate. And if it is hitting from the correct side, they will cup the air and grab onto it and act as a stabilizer instead of either splitting open or folding down. So that's the difference. That's the simple difference between the left wing and the right. So for example, this is a left wing feather. And if I push on the correct side, it is stiff and it grabs the arrow and it does not want to lay down. But if I push on it from the wrong side, if it were to be fletched the other direction, the wind and the air would be hitting this side of the feather, not this side. And you can see it just wants to fold down. So all the difference is the left wing fletched correctly resists the movement. It cups and grabs the air. If you fletch them the wrong way, they'd want to fold down out of the way. They're just not very strong and efficient that way. So now, how do you tell the difference between a right wing and a left wing feather? Now, if you don't have a package that is marked, or you have found a bunch or whatever, it's really simple and actually pretty easy. All you got to do is look at the feather from the back, not from the front, but from the back, and you'll see that the left wing feather makes a capital L in the actual format that it looks. So if you look at it from behind, the feather part is the top portion of the L, and the quill down on the bottom is that leg of the L that points inwards in the left wing feather. The right wing feather, it points the other way. So L, when it makes an L from the back, that's left wing. When it's not from the back, that's a right wing. Now, does it matter which feather you use for shooting a right or a left-handed bow? In my experience, no, not at all. Many people will say if you're right-handed, you got to use a right hand or vice versa. In my experience, it does not matter. Although what I would do is I would fletch the arrows up to the actual natural rotation of the arrow itself. I did a Facebook Live a long time ago on how to do that. There is a video that I have on this channel. I'll put a link in the description below and a card at the top here on where you can find that video if you're interested in it. I'm going to remake it here eventually in the future, so that way we can have a much more condensed version of that video. But essentially, your arrows will naturally rotate one direction or the other if they're bare shafts. And so what I do is I fletch up my arrows to enhance that natural rotation instead of it wanting to stop the natural rotation and then restart it the other direction. I have found that, in my opinion, if you don't want to do that, all you got to do is use the correct rotation for the most amount of clearance that you need. So for me, I've actually found that I get more clearance from my arrow rest and my plunger button or burger button and the arrow shelf all in conjunction at the same time if I use a left wing over a right wing. So even though I'm right-handed, I use left wing feathers. I don't use right wing feathers. I fletch them left helical, not right helical, because they're left wing feathers, left helical, and I shoot fairly well with them indoors. So I was happy with that setup. Now, these are flu feathers, so they're full length, full height, and everything like that. And after I fletch my arrows, I use what's called a fletching burner and then melt the feathers down to an exact shape that I prefer. I'll do a video on that eventually on how to burn your own feathers. It's actually pretty fun. It smells awful, but I found that I really like doing it. It's a lot of fun. Plus, there's a few advantages to making your own shape. Basically, what I did here is I maximized the surface area to stabilize the arrow, but I minimized the height of it, so that way I still had plenty of clearance on the components of my bow, and that way the feathers, if they were to hit my bow on the way by, it wouldn't affect the flight of the arrow at all. So that's just a little fun thing that I used to do and I still enjoy doing. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this video, consider hitting the like button, the subscription button, and the notification bell. And if you're interested in supporting my channel, head to my website, jkaminski.com, where you can find information on Patreon, apparel, books, and digital coaching as well.